Awesemo, here we are. It's your old pal Emac coming to you bright and early on a Saturday morning with your pal and mine, one Gundacker. What's going on in the Bronx playoff race right now?
Here, good morning. It is a three-legged race, and it's going to come down to the wire, and it could be a painful October, or it could be a fun one with a team that probably doesn't belong, but hey, that's baseball.
Yeah, I was when I do my Saturday article, because I got to do the show sheet as well, I tend to take a look at the standings and figure out what's going on, because a lot of times in DFS we aren't always as cognizant as we ought to be here. But Boston is up half game on the Yankees, who are up half a game on the Blue Jays for the two wild card spots. Of course, Tampa Bay running away with things. At this point in the National League, you've got the Dodgers relatively secure, up 16. So they basically have they've clinched. So they haven't clinched the best wild card, but they've clinched the playoffs, and they are about to clinch the best wild card. The Cardinals are holding on for dear life ahead of the Reds by one. San Diego all the way back there, 1.5 out of the wild card. Things have changed. San Diego picked up yet another discarded starter. Vincent Velasquez made his Padres debut last night in expected fashion. Nothing great. But we're going to talk about today's stuff because we have a massive slate. Everybody is in action. Well, we have 3 slates, actually. We've got one starting at 1 o'clock. We have a late afternoon slate, depending on which site you are playing on. Then we have an 8-game main slate. So we're going to break that in half. We're going to talk about the early games together, and then the late games together as well. We're, of course, brought to you by Jock Market. We do appreciate them. We're going to talk a little bit about them later in the show. But let's start rolling here. If you guys haven't already, please do hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. It'll be very helpful and enjoyable. It gets us marching towards that 60,000 subscribers. We're about 1,400 away right now, which is very, very exciting. The town I grew up in had 2,500 people. So, wow, this is like all the towns nearby the town I grew up in put together, and it's still more subscribers than that. Let's get to our first game here. We have, let me get down to the show sheet. Why is my show sheet not scrolling? I'll have to worry about that. Oh, there we go. Now it's scrolled down to last week. Sorry. Riveting. Cleveland at the Yankees. I was going to say, I knew that's why I started off on my Yankees tidbit there. You've got Mr. Gill, who it has been all over the place with his results. What are you thinking about with him? The price is bouncing on the different sites. We're also looking at an 80-degree 1 o'clock start with humidities in the 60 to 70 range. This feels like an offensive environment. Do you trust Gill? On the other side, you got Aaron Savale, who's been good this year, but is anybody good going against the Bronx Bombers?
I unfortunately, yeah, a lot of average pitchers have had decent strikeout results against the Yankees. Starting with the Luis Hill side, he has strikeout potential. He has every right to be a top 3-4 scoring pitcher on the slate. His bugaboo is his walk rate. He has been one of the luckier pitchers, and I think in his last start, that luck started catching up to him. But for a while, he hadn't allowed an earned run. But you look at the Toronto game, he had 7 walks, Boston 4 walks. He has a problem commanding the zone. Last start looked a little bit better. I think he definitely is a pitcher with upside, but he comes with risk because of that walk rate. And he also has a pretty elevated fly ball rate, over 50% to both lefties and righties. So a little bit of risk there. I would definitely hedge it with some of the Indians if I had to. Jose Ramirez being probably my favorite Indian. Franmil Reyes, somebody to look after as well. And of course, the Yankees bullpen has been very, very depleted, waiting desperately for Jonathan Loaizaga to come back. So you likely see some southpaws come out the bullpen. I thought Andrew Heaney would come in last night in an 8-0 game. Like, that's the spot where you waste Heaney, but they use Lucas Licky. So you might even see some Heaney today. I think it's been about 5 days. So I'm not against some hedge Indian stacks, but the Yankees offense looks okay at 5.5 implied run total. Judge, Stanton, Gallo has, I think, 6 homers in his last 8 games. He's clicking, and he's pretty cheap on both sites, all things considered. 3,900 on DraftKings is a problem. Going against Aaron Savale, a lower K rate, 23%, can still get you some strikeouts, but he has suffered with some homers to lefties, 1.65 home run per 9. So the normal Yankees are in play. I don't think I get to any Savale in this spot, but Gil, I would tread carefully. And if I'm multi-entering, I'm probably going to hedge it with some Indians.
Yeah, Gallo had coming off the double dong last night, $14 on Yahoo. Liked him. The Yahoo is my featured stack of the day. Yesterday, we, of course, have the Spotlight Hitters and Top Stacks article that is free in front of the Awesemo.com paywall every single day. We also have the Tournament Leverage article that usually comes out just after lunch. Terry does the latter. I do the former. We don't have a lot of overlap because I usually write my stacks one for each slate. So you're always going to get an early, a main, and a late slate. And then sometimes we'll have an evening slate if there's enough action going on there. So that's more fun for me because I get to write about teams other than always talking about the Yankees, always talking about the Red Sox. Hey, we just talked about the Yankees. Now let's talk about the Red Sox. What's coming next on SportsCenter? Well, we have to mention the Boston going against Baltimore in this one. Nick Pivetta, I'll let you talk about him just a little bit, but the Baltimore has been an absolute unmitigated disaster when it comes to their starting pitching, when it comes to their relievers. It is just a mess. So today we're taking on Zach Lowther is how I believe it. Lowther. No, you pronounce. I went and looked it up. It's Lau as in now. And then I went and watched a couple highlights to make sure I was trying to get it right. And I believe it's Lowther. So almost like lather, because I was calling him Lowther. And that was not correct on this one. But I do want to say it's Zach with no K in his name and no K in his game. Boom. There we go. Okay. Dad joke right
Not
here.
A rapper. Bars.
Now, yes. Now I do have to say he did lead the Baltimore farm system in strikeouts in 2019. However, that was for Double-A Bowie, Go Bay Sox, and he has just been not great since then. He is a top 25 prospect in the Orioles farm system. He is a crafty lefty. He has a unique delivery that they call funky. His fastball sits at around 90. He can get it into the low 90s when he needs to. He profiles as a 1 to 2 inning reliever or opener, but Baltimore they have a collection of arms. They have innings that need to be checked off. So they're just going to keep throwing them out there every 5 days. So everybody for Boston is in play. On the other side, Baltimore's kind of intriguing going against Nick Pivetta. And I think this is a little bit of a swerve play on that early slate where Baltimore, we know, has a solid offense, and they tend to not be household names at this point. And even in the DFS world, they don't get a lot of credit for their upside offensively, because all we think of is how bad their pitching is. Hey, guess what? Their hitting would look really, really good if it could go against their pitching, but I think it's going to look good today going against Pivetta. Is there any merit to playing Pivetta on the two pitcher sites and then take over the rest of the game here?
I mean, yeah, he still has strikeout potential, 26.5% K rate to righties, 25% to lefty. So you still get a 1 in 4 opportunity at the strikeouts. The Orioles have shown a lot of strikeouts in their game. They didn't show it yesterday with Chris Sale on the bump, but the previous 2 games, both Nestor Cortez and Jordan Montgomery got to 11 and 12 Ks respectively. Not that they went off on Sale, but Sale just wasn't getting the punchies. So maybe that had to do with I don't want to speculate, but he did come off the Rona IL. Pivetta would absolutely be in place. Not a warm and fuzzy click by any stretch of the imagination. Elevated xFIP to both sides of the plate, does have some home run problems. I don't know that I feel like every day I look up Austin Hayes is homering. So there's absolutely some Orioles bats to fire back at the Red Sox. But touching on the Red Sox, they are going to be massive amounts of owned on the DraftKings early slate. They are projected to be a 27% owned stacked. However, that is a stack that we have projected to be a 20% chance of being the top stack. So huge numbers on the Red Sox. They have a 6.9, very nice run total for them. Lowther, like you said, the Orioles are checked out. They're just trying to clean up some innings down the stretch, see what they do have, see what they don't have. You mentioned he's a top 25 prospect in the Orioles system. What does that mean? I
was trying to give him something.
They do have Adley Rutschman, like he's the number one overall prospect, but past that, like I wouldn't be too excited. He is showing some home run problems to both sides of the plate. Red Sox are in an absolute smash spot here, and unfortunately, they're too cheap. Like even if they're, we had 10, 12K pitching, it would be too easy to play the Red Sox here because no one's 5K or more, right? Like this is a ridiculous spot for these prices on the Red Sox. Obviously, there's going to be some ways to get different, but Hunter Renfroe, JD Martinez, Bobby Dalbec, all guys that profile extremely well. Kike Hernandez, we love him against left-handed pitching, and the Orioles bullpen should keep it going. So all the Red Sox here, but like you said, the Orioles could be a really fun way to get a little different. Nick Pivetta does have an ability to bleed red, and the Orioles stack, we have them pretty low, 4.5% cumulative ownership with just a 6.5% chance to be in a top stack. But like I said, Santander, Mancini, Austin Hayes, even Cedric Mullins. I mean, those are guys that could put up some numbers here. They're a little bit sneakier offensively, talent-wise, and I think a lot of the field gives them credit for. It's their pitching that is so bad.
All right. Shout out to a couple people just joined the team Awesemo here in the Awesemo YouTube. We've got Doug Ross. Love your work at County General there on ER as a real life doctor. Wait, I'm confusing things. That show, I don't think it's or that joke may not hit because ER was a show that's been off the air for like 20 years. Good show at the time, though. But and we've got OMG LOWLZ. You see that his name at the top of a lot of leaderboards lately. He's on a nice run. So welcome to the team Awesemo there. You have fun there. You guys don't have to sign up for that if you don't want to. It works out to 10 cents a day. So my wife's like, why do you keep getting this YouTube charge? I'm like, oh, it's so I can have some fun emoticons. I don't know what are they called? Emoticons? Is that
emoji?
Anyway, emojis. There we go. Emoji. You can have some fun ones there with this. So check that out. All right, let's see. Let's keep moving along here. Get to our 2:00 games here. Max Scherzer going against Sonny Gray. Max Scherzer, he's awesome. I'm sad that we don't have him in Washington anymore, but that is what it is. Sonny Gray in a tough matchup going against the Dodgers. This feels like sort of a I don't want to race after the pitchers on either side. They are two of the best, but these are not slam dunk options by any stretch. The Dodgers are a veritable all-star team here. And of course, this game being in the Great American Ballpark, which tends to favor power and runs, is a tough spot for anybody. But I think these pitchers can rise above the occasion or rise to the occasion. Scherzer clearly is cream of the crop when we're looking at things today. He's basically top three in every major pitching category except for wins at this point. Would you play any hitter in this game?
Yeah, I always stack Great American Ballpark every slate. Like it just has the chance to pop off, and both these offenses can surprise us. I do respect both pitchers at a high level, so it's not one of those. I think these guys could bleed here, but I do think sometimes this ballpark takes over and surprising things can happen. Max Scherzer, to his credit, one of the best to ever do it, but he does allow a couple bombs here and there. And then Sonny Gray's been really rock solid, but he has allowed power to righties, almost a 1.5 home run per 9 to righties on the season, and at home a 1.65 overall home run per 9, and that's what the park will do. So I will have more Dodgers and Reds, but I will have a little bit of this game just get a little bit different. Obviously, all eyes are on Fenway and maybe Yankee Stadium, but this park deserves a look or two. Pitching wise, Scherzer, we have him projected with a 40.8% chance to be in a top 2 pitcher on the slate. He's got 53% ownership. I think that, the atypical lineup will feature Scherzer for Red Sox and keep it moving. Sonny Gray would be a much more brave click, but it's not impossible for Sonny Gray to pitch a gem in this spot. A much more modest range of outcome for him. We have him at just under 20% chance to be in a top 2 pitcher, but just 3% ownership. So massive amounts of leverage opportunity there with 16% chance or discrepancy between those numbers. So it could be a fun tournament play because people do not like pitching against the Dodgers.
Let's continue on here. Minnesota at Toronto. For some reason, every time I was looking at Steven Matz this morning, I got up early. Doug got me up at 5:25. I did drink a whole pot of cold brew coffee, and I'm crashing right now. I wish I would have saved a little bit of that for this show, but it's all gone at this point. We have Steven Matz. I kept thinking this game was in a National League park because Matz used to pitch for the Mets. But clearly it is not. This one is in the Rogers Center. Decent chance that we will have the roof open there on a pleasant day today in Toronto. You have rookie Bailey Ober coming in against Matz here. I'd be more interested in Matz than Ober at this point. Ober is slowing down just a little bit. He's kind of in that maintenance mode for what we're going to see with a lot of rookies, and we'll talk about pitchers, and we'll talk about some more of them as they come in today. They being Minnesota, basically just running him out there every 5 or every 6 days, not pushing him into a heavy pitch count. They just want him to get used to the workload at this point. Matt's kind of interesting at 7.5 on DK here. We know Minnesota, while they are good against lefties, they do have some strikeouts in their lineup at this point. What would you like to do with this one? Is there any merit to Ober, or is it mostly Matz for you? And then talk the hitters.
Yeah, it feels like Matz feels like the guy I'd get you more of. The Twins shocked the world last night, getting into Hunyan Ryu. They went 3 homers in a row, and they still got some guys in the lineup, like you said, that can be a problem against left-handed pitching. Buxton, Polanco, Donaldson, and Miguel Sano should be featured in some twin stacks if you guys are going to get there. Matz has allowed home runs to righties over the course of this season, and really the last 2 seasons he's gotten a lot better about it this year. But I could see both, playing both sides of that. I'd definitely have more Matz than Bailey Ober. One of those, he's like 6'9". He's got a lanky delivery to him. But Blue Jays, I just don't wake up in the morning to pitch against the Toronto Blue Jays right now. And they are playing super inspired baseball. Probably no one on this slate has a better incentive to win than the Blue Jays. So I expect them to show up and show out. No Ober for me, a little bit of Matz. I will have Blue Jay stacks as well as the Twins. Blue Jays are kind of interesting because we get them at a lower ownership than we usually ever do. We got them at just 5% cumulative ownership by the field, a 10% chance to be in a top stack. So we get a little bit of leverage there. And, Boston obviously in a massive spot, but Toronto has just as much chance as anybody to drop a couple touchdowns on any given Saturday.
I like what you did there. I approve of that cross sports analogy here. 2 more games here on our early slate, then we'll hit the main slate. Of course, we have seven more shows after us today, which is just phenomenal. We're going to get out of here at about 10:55. We will bring in the college football betting / DFS live before lock. That will be with Matt Gajeski and, of course, Ben Raza. They have just been absolutely on fire lately with their information. I believe their week, I think it was their week. Was it week 0? I lost. Everybody was calling something the first game's week 0. I can't remember if it was week 0 last week. They went like 15-2-1 on their betting show. You can also catch their betting podcast, Betting You, every day or every week. That comes out on Wednesday. You can get that on the Awesemo Podcast Network. We have about half a dozen different sports channels there, and we have the consolidated main channel. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Put in your social media handle, be it your Twitter, your email, or your Awesemo username. We do a drawing every week to give away a free month of Awesemo premium content. Check that out and have some fun. Easy way to get in there for Awesemo. We have the Rockies going against the Nationals. Nationals took it to Herman Marquez last night. We've got Kyle Freeland at 6,400. Intriguing somewhat here on DraftKings as an SP2. The Washington Nationals are, not exactly terrifying or world beaters at this point. They do have above average hitters with Juan Soto, Josh Bell. There's a decent chance we'll see Josh Bell go in the outfield today, and Ryan Zimmerman could be in there at first base. But aside from those guys, maybe with Lane Thomas having a moment or two as the leadoff guy and getting 5 plate appearances in most games, there's really nothing to worry about on this one. Corbin on the other side, worst ERA, most home runs allowed in his career this season. Still somehow has 11 quality starts, though, Gundacker. I'm not sure how to reconcile that. What are you doing here with this pair of lefties? And then does either offense intrigue you at all?
Yeah, actually, I think the Nationals offense is speaking to me a little bit more than they should. EMAC, if I had to ask you who the top three teams in WRC Plus against lefties are, Houston, Toronto, the Nationals, man. The Nationals are better than maybe people think. And maybe that creates a fun opportunity for them to deliver. Lane Thomas, Josh Bell, Soto can hit lefties. Ryan Zimmerman's a guy we love against lefties. So a couple guys that speak out to me there as a fun contrarian stack. Kyle Freeland will pitch more to contact than not. Does allow homers to righties, a 1.92 home run per nine to righties so far, 1.3 home run per nine to lefties. So there is potential for power. He does have an elevated ground ball rate, and this is something that could spoil this stack, but I don't think it's a crazy thought to get to some Nat stacks in the back of your pocket. As far as pitching Freeland, 6,400. You're opening each 5 innings, maybe 6, a strikeout per inning on a good day, probably less than a strikeout per inning on an average day. And 6,400, if he got you to 15 DKP, that dog just might hunt as a score that help you get to the top and maybe get you a max and a big boy stack. Corbin, his righty splits are so scary when you isolate them. His lefty numbers are pristine. His righty numbers are rough. The Rockies are a team that, generally speaking, not as good on the road as they are at home. A couple guys in this lineup like Trevor Story, CJ Crone, even Charlie Blackmon might surprise you against lefties that I don't mind getting to. I think overall I'll be really light on pitching from this game, but I don't think I would be completely absent from pitching, and I would have a dab of Nat stacks and probably some Rocky stacks just in case Corbin goes full on Corbin.
All right. Tiny fact check. Their active roster is 7th in WRC plus.
Hey, I'll take it.
It's 109. Everybody's behind the Astros, but you are right. Oh my God, they're right there in the mix. Top 10 in power, top 2 in walks, bottom 5 in strikeouts. Wow, I did not see that one coming. Sadly, I did not do this show before I went and picked Freeland up in my remaining season-long league as a streamer today. Well, I will either have an emotional hedge and the Nats do well, and I'm like, all right, the Nats did well, or Freeland will do well. I guess I can't really lose in this one, but wow, that's a good call out there. I had not noticed that at all. So nice. This is why we tag team these shows here. Final of the early contests here, or the 4:00 games, I should say. You have Tariq Skubal going against Ryan Yarbrough. You need to understand this about the Detroit pitchers. They are basically running them every 6 or 7 days, and they're not pitching them really more than 3 or 4 innings. They have, and this goes for Casey Mize as well. The interesting thing is similar to what we talked about with Ober. The team just, all these guys are sort of hitting their most pitches or most innings in their career, partly because last year there was no innings. So we're really looking at 2019, 2018, 2017 for a lot of these players. So we're seeing anybody that's getting around 100, 120 innings is at their career highs. They're not playing for a lot. Detroit isn't anyway. They're not playing for a lot here. So it's more of just about going through the process, getting ready, the off-throwing days, everything like that. So I will take Skubal out of my player pool. He will not even be a part of it. He does have the potential to get 8 strikeouts in those 3 innings, but it's not worth it, in my opinion. The Rays on the other side going with Yarbrough, 2 disastrous starts here in a row. Has he fallen apart? Was it bad luck? What do you think about Yarbrough? Because at 5,700 on DK, that's an intriguing price point here against Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, Yarbrough ran into the back end of an AL East truck, man. Toronto Blue Jays and Boston Red Sox, they're a problem. So if you perform, less than stellar against them, that's tough. He went all the way into the deep. 8 hits allowed against Boston, 10 hits allowed against Toronto. It was all bad, really, really quick. But those are 2 much better teams than the Detroit Tigers. I wouldn't be, huge on getting to Yarbrough at 5,700. I feel like I'd be more inclined to maybe take a shot on on Freeland. But if you just thought Tropicana Field could suppress some runs here and Yarbrough could pick it up, but I wouldn't push back against that line of thinking. I just don't think generally we get enough strikeout potential out of Yarbrough anyway. A 16% K rate to righties this season. Might get an all righty lineup from the Tigers. Maybe a Kilbadu still gets in there. But his righty splits are really, really rough to trust. So I'm not there in Yarbrough. I'm definitely not there in Skubal. I will say that the Rays lineup could be less than menacing or less than their usual menacing lineup against lefties. Wander Franco being on the IL and Nelson Cruz being listed as day-to-day was not in the lineup yesterday. And, those are two bats you definitely like in a stack against left-handed pitching. Skubal does allow the long ball to righties with his K rate. It's one of those, if he can make contact situations, Jordan Luplow, Mike Zunino would be in huge home run opportunity spots. So keep an eye on them as potential late afternoon hammers. And then maybe some Randy Arozarena gets a positive lineup spot. But I think because of the ballpark, we're easily able to go elsewhere on this slate. And I'm very low, if not all the way out on both pitchers.
Right. We did get the Boston lineup in. Hunter Renfroe batting second. That is awesome. You also have Bobby Dahlbeck did make the lineup 3,200 on DK. That's a phenomenal price. And your differentiation play is going to be Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber batting sixth. We'll probably only see Zach Lowther twice, or at most, and more likely once. And then the Baltimore bullpen is entirely right-handed, with the exception of one lefty who is Fernando Abad. Abad? Just bad. Oh, it's like he's named after the Baltimore Orioles pitching. Anything you want to throw back in here for our early slate? Home run calls, Dahlbeck and Schwarbs for me. Oh, why not Hunter Renfroe? Let's make it 3 for 3 from the Red Sox.
Yeah, the top of my bomb detector for the early slate involves Nelson Cruz and Mike Zunino, but Zunino definitely has to overcome that strikeout propensity against Skubal. Nelson Cruz has to play, and then past him, I got Renfroe, Luplow, and JD Martinez.
Okay, good deal there. I see friend of the show, Steven Leibowitz, is in chat. Happy Nathan Eovaldi Eve. Eovaldi will be pitching tomorrow. We like to call that out just because it's fun to say Eovaldi. You know what also is fun? Jock Market. They're sponsoring our show today. If you guys haven't heard, Jock Market has turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Forget waiting until the end of the game to make money. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money for guaranteed payouts for all of the shares at the end of each night. You can win daily with MLB, PGA, NFL, soon to be NHL and NBA. Make real money every hour, every minute, every second of the game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite player, or buy, sell, and hold during the game based upon your own analysis. Download their app and join with the promo code Awesemo. And when you put in your first deposit, they will match you up to $50. Check that out. That is promo code Awesemo over there at Jock Market. They also are playing around with the functionality of allowing you to sell short shares of players, meaning if you think they're going to do poorly, or if someone does very, very well early, you sell them short because their production is going to come down proportionally during the game. So it's another wrinkle to check that out there. Plus, who doesn't like being a nerd staring at your phone on the couch, not talking to anybody while you're watching sports? That sounds like a perfect day to me. How about you, Gundacker?
Sounds like the last 18 years of my life.
Hey, I follow you on social media. I see you have a lady friend in your life. It's not been entirely sports.
Mostly. Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to talk main slate action here?
Yeah, man. I thought you'd never ask.
Lance Lynn going into Texas. The roof probably will be open today. They are getting to that point in the year where they're going to start opening the roof again in Texas, but you can follow social media, especially follow News God, our own News God, who keeps track of all of that fun stuff for us. You got Spencer Howard on the other side. I have zero interest in Howard, even at $5,000 going against the juggernaut. That is the Chicago White Sox. Lance Lynn, however, 8,700 on DK. He's going to be in the mix. There are 6 players right now that I think are attractive options on the DK slate for the main slate here as our 2 pitchers in that particular format. How are you feeling about Lance Lynn? And how are you feeling about, I was going to make some joke about Texas offense, but they're just a joke. They don't need me to define that. What do you think about Lance Lynn today?
They don't have any more Lynn bobbleheads, do they?
Is this a remember me game? Why, yes, it is.
Do you remember that they had Kluber when he came back? It was his bobblehead night, I think, because of last year. They never got to give out the bobbleheads. I don't know if Lance Lynn has some lingering Ranger bobbleheads.
Nice. I was not aware of that. That is, it's baseball. It's fun. 162 games. We've got to find things to amuse ourselves. That is amusing. Amuse us here with some analysis, though.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Lynn's pretty doggone good at throwing the baseball. I think if you trust these White Sox starters to go deep, which I'm on the fence about, because they are one of the teams that are truly coasting into the playoffs. So they're kind of protecting, or they have an opportunity to protect their pitchers. And we haven't seen them really push Rodon and these other starters deep either. Last two starts for Lance Lynn were 5 innings apiece. He went just 2 hits allowed against Boston, 9 strikeouts, just 70 pitches, and he's usually a workhorse. So I do have that in the back of my mind as a potential thing to watch. But 8,700, I'd probably take 5 innings of opportunity against the Rangers, because the Rangers do offer a lot of strikeout propensity. So yeah, he's in my pool for sure. 10.3K on FanDuel. You meditate on that a little bit more. Howard has been atrocious against right-handed hitting, 5.47 xFIP, 329 average allowed, a $142 on the old home run per 9. So fire up the White Sox with a decent level of confidence yesterday. They were one of my favorite stacks. If they did pop the lid on Globe Life, that would just increase their propensity to be a top scoring stack on the slate. In our top stacks tool, we have the White Sox as the number 1 stack on the slate, and not the highest owned stack. So that's what you like to see. They are 3rd in ownership behind the Astros and the Angels, who might have to tag somebody, because I don't know if that top stack versus ownership is correct there. But the White Sox looking like all systems go on my end.
Absolutely on that one. Is there any redeeming option to look at any of the Texas hitters? On DraftKings, Willie Calhoun stands out at $2,500. He's really the only guy that pops, but just to have that potential swing from your heels type guy at that cheap, not a bad way to go.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just chipping a chair in a couple of power bats, Calhoun, Adolis Garcia, those are guys that would stand out. Calhoun, a low barrel rate so far this season, just 3%, but I'm willing to bet on that number coming up. And like you say, he's really doggone cheap, but no one here that I'm really getting excited about. Backing up Lance Lynn is a really good bullpen.
All right, let's move on to our next game here. You have the Kansas City Royals hosting the Seattle Mariners. We have Chris Bubich going for the Royals. He's 5,400 on DK. On the other side, you have UC Kikuchi. Kikuchi is somewhat interesting to me as one of our wild card DK options here. He has the ability to attain 20 plus DKP, as Gundocker likes to say, upside, which is nice. Now he has gotten 18 or more DraftKings points in 4 of his last 8 starts. However, he's gone negative in 2 of his last 8 starts. I'm willing to roll the dice in tournaments because the differentiation, or probably the discount, is going to be important to us with getting some of these primary hitters. And there are just the risk is, though, there are just so many good pitchers tonight. If he goes poorly, everything's going to go sideways. You need about 4 pitchers to fail or have marginal outings amongst our top 5 or 6, which is absolutely possible here. But how do you feel about Kikuchi? Am I just getting stars in my eyes for this one, as I've been looking for value this morning, creating some lineups?
No, I think Kikuchi, pound for pound, might have the toughest schedule of any pitcher in baseball. I mean, he has faced some juggernaut offenses, so I'm willing to give him a little bit of slack. With that said, he has faced the Royals as well and didn't necessarily perform extremely good. This Royals lineup kind of hit or miss when it comes to strikeouts. They have a lane in this projected lineup: Mondesi, Dozier, Michael A. Taylor, a 25% plus, and then a bunch of guys that have sub 20% K rate. So it is the flip of a coin here at 7K. Could we get that 14 to 20? Like you said, it's possible, but I probably would be on both sides of the seesaw, jumping up and down. Bubich, did your thing, dog, but that's going to be a no for me, more than likely. Low K rates, high powers. I like this game yesterday to be kind of a sneaky, sloppy shootout. Jared Kelenic got me high in some lineups with a pair of homers. Out there in Coffin, they're still experiencing some of the warmer temperatures in all of the country. So it does play well for situations like this when you put two average or average minus pitchers on the bump and bullpens that can bleed red. So I kind of like this game as contrarian stacking or even just cherry picking some of the better bats here with Salvi. I don't know if I'd run back Kelenic or if Kelenic makes the lineup, but you would think after two homers they'd run it back out there.
Yeah, he was the one guy I basically waved off yesterday, which has been him and Christian Yelich. Those are the two guys. It's just, you know what, just take them out of your player pool this season, and you're better off for it because any popularity going to them is too much popularity. But I did like the Royals. They were supposed to face Brady Singer, who went on the injured list for undisclosed reasons. And the analysis was, they didn't say, so it must be COVID. And I'm like, no, it's because he gave up 5 home runs in his last start to 4 different batters. And I think it was against the Twins, including someone who got like their second career home run, a total punch and Judy rookie shortstop. But I may be wrong about it being the Twins, so I forget what it is. But Bubic is in a similar boat to a lot of the other rookies. He is kind of at hitting his innings cap. So we do Kyle Seager very good in lefty-lefty matchups. Mitch Haniger, phenomenal. However, 5,900 on DK, 56 on DK for Haniger and Seager. Those are some heavy price points. Kikuchi, just to round out some of his recent games against good teams. Houston, he held scoreless back on August 31st across 7 innings. Of course, they kicked his ass 2 starts before that, gave up 7 runs to them. He held Toronto to 3 earned runs, held the Yankees scoreless over 5, held the Tampa Bay Rays to 1 run in 6 innings. Tampa Bay and Toronto are 1-2 in runs scored this season. So those are some decent outings. And you're right, he has had some tough matchups here. So I'm okay with him. And thank you for calling out the weather. It's going to be approaching 90 degrees in Kansas City today. Of course, this game will be at 7 o'clock local time, so it'll start to cool a little bit, but it is by far the warmest game that we have on the slate. Continuing to move on here, we've got the Houston Astros, who are the best team in the league against righties. They are the best team in the league against lefties. Today, they will be taking on, a right-hander in Humberto Castellanos. You know, this is a remember me spot because Castellanos spent 5 years in the Houston organization. He came up last year, finally got his cup of coffee, absolutely was crushed. They released him. Arizona said, we could use some pitchers. They won the coin flip, or is it lost the coin flip with Baltimore to get him. I'm being slightly facetious, but he's sort of a retread pitcher here. He did okay in the low minors. However, Castellanos just got his hat handed to him in AAA. 2 home runs per 9 innings. It's just a mess. I think Yordan Alvarez got the night off last night, did pinch it later in the game in the DH slot. But Yordan Alvarez is clearly your lead guy. I'm going to give you two stat lines here and then turn this over to you. You have Yordan Alvarez, who has let's see, did they keep it in my article? They did. A 365 WOBA and 262 ISO in lefty-righty matchups. His teammate, Kyle Tucker, has a 30-point higher WOBA and the same ISO. What's going on with Kyle Tucker here? And the Yahoo algorithm understands. They have him as the second most expensive option today at 26. 26. That's just insane. But how are you feeling about the Astros here? Is there any Astro you wouldn't play? Let's do it a different way. Is there any Astro you wouldn't play today?
No, absolutely not. This Castellanos definitely somebody that I think they can get onto. Obviously, he struggled more towards lefties and righties, but overall his road splits have been pretty sour. Astros are a good team. Yesterday, man, they were one of my favorite stacks, and Mad Bum had 5 perfect innings, I think, and I was tilting, man. Astros are just that team that they're my literal slot machine team, right? If I'm pumping quarters at the slot machine, it's usually the Astros that I'm waiting for the payout. And I didn't quite get there yesterday. So I'm going to stay there here against this D-backs pitching. Astros do have 5.5 implied runs to work with here. And there's positive 8 innings, more than likely, of at-bats for them. So yeah, no Astro I wouldn't get to. And I also think you mentioned the Yahoo algorithm being right. I think the DraftKings pricing algorithm feels wrong. Just 2 players at 5K and 5.1K, everyone else under 5K. So it's not even going to be a financially tough thing to do to get to some liberal amounts of Astros ownership. And you're probably going to get to copious amounts of Chas McCormick, Jake Myers, and you might even get Siri in the mix if he cracks that lineup again. He's had a couple of fun games at near min price. So yeah, I'm in on the Astros. No Castellanos. Going to the pitchers here, Lance McCullers at 9,500. He'll probably profile as one of the more trendy pitchers. 20% ownership projected on him right now. That's a little bit higher than you probably want it versus our chance of him being a top 2 pitcher at 18%, about 9% discrepancy. But it is a D-backs lineup that comes out softer than most lineups. Yesterday, Ketel Marte had the day off. We'll see if he comes back to the mix. But that 4 through 9 of this projected lineup all have elevated strikeouts, and in the designated hitter spot, not really helping them in the strikeout department.
All right. You said ownership. What is ownership? Well, that is the popularity of a player. We project that out to see what their ownership would be in tournaments, meaning where is the rest of the field against them. Today, we actually have main slate ownership for free for MLB. So you'll want to check that out. Other free content we have today, we have the MMA fighter rankings tool. That is free today. Of course, we have the MMA slate starting at 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll get an MMA show, MMA Live Before Lock will be coming up in a couple hours. That will be with Pete the Heat Rogers and with Jason Floyd. Definitely check that out. And then, of course, we also have, we've got more free stuff. Let's get back to the NFL main slate ownership is free. So there we go. Check out the popularity of the different players. It's a big math problem. We've talked about this before, Gunn. Wouldn't math have been much more interesting in school if we were using DFS as our story problems instead of 2 trains leaving different cities and heading towards each other at different speeds?
Yeah, definitely probabilities and ranges of outcomes would have been a lot more interesting if they used baseball or even shot percentage in basketball or something like that versus, some of the tired examples.
All right, back to the analysis here at hand. Lance McCullers, you set that up nicely. I do want to point out he has 2 elite skill sets, and rarely do we see them together. His ground ball rate over the last 800 batters is about 55%. His strikeout rate is 28%, and Houston is almost 3-1 to get the win today. So I'm going to lean a little bit towards McCullers. We're going to talk Corbin Burns, et cetera, but as you can kind of see, we know where stuff's going to be congregated at. That's where we were coming up with maybe the UC Kikuchi, who is in a tougher matchup, but who does have the outcome of getting those points. That's what we want to look for there in tournaments to gain some leverage. But that is going to wrap up this game. Moving on to our next one, we have Yu Darvish going against the Cardinals. Darvish rhymes with disaster. Well, it really doesn't, but it should. He has been just awful Gundacker. Like in his last 2 starts, he's gone, I'm going off the top of my head, 9 innings, gave up 8 runs. He's giving up tons of home runs. He has more bad starts than good starts over the last 3 months. That should not be possible for someone who is as talented as he is. We know he's had issues tipping his pitches. He's been on the injured list. Is this the end of the line at this point for Darvish? Meaning, is he no longer going to be effective? And then on the other side, you have Mr. Dial Back the Clock, Adam Wainwright, putting up his best season in the last 10 years among the league leaders in wins and quality starts. I'm recommending Adam Wainwright. I would not have thought that at the beginning of this season.
Yeah.
Over Darvish.
Wainwright's been a machine. There is a really okay. Wainwright's been a machine, and one of the things I like about Wainwright is his pitch count is unlimited at this point. 100 plus pitches is basically the floor that you might expect, and that buys a lot of innings, so you get a lot of 6+ inning performances to help you go get a cheap quality start on FanDuel. So I do like keeping him in mind in that regard, and he's held his own against even teams like the Dodgers. He ended up not getting a quality start against the Dodgers because they left him out there a little too long. 8.1 innings, but he has, I think, slate some of the highest projected outs per game in all of baseball. So 8,400 on. I'm sorry, there's a guy with a massive compensation problem out there. 8,400 on DraftKings feels like a nice price to go out there and get you 2.5, maybe in 3x return on that. So I do like that. And then Yu Darvish, man. I was listening to Greg and Adam talk about Yu Darvish. I think the last turn, he's been bad, but he's been especially bad for a long time on the road. You got to go all the way to, looks like April 23rd to find the last time Yu Darvish netted you 20 DraftKings points in a road start. So April temperatures were definitely nicer to him. And then, maybe he's one of those pitchers that are dealing with innings versus last year. It's not been good. And the Cardinals have been a team that have put out some surprising outputs of offense in the last couple of weeks. And yesterday, they got there again. So I'm probably out on Darvish at this rate. On the road, nearly a 5x FIP, a 2+ home run per 9. So it's one of those spots I'm not just going to fade him without acting on it. I'm going to have some Cardinals exposure here, and that's what I'll do. Give me some goalies, some Tyler O'Neill, Arenado, Yachty, and I'll roll the dice on him remaining bad out there, even though it is a pitcher's part.
All right. How old do you think Yu Darvish is?
32, maybe
35. Turned 35
really?
1 month ago. Yeah,
age as well.
He has been in the league for 9 years, I believe.
He did miss a big stretch with the Rangers.
He missed all of 2015, which was pretty harsh. He led the league in strikeouts his second year in 2018 at age 26. Hey, how can we forget? I didn't know this, but he led the league in wins last year because it was a pandemic shortened season, and he had 8. So, hey, Luke Voigt led the league in home runs with, what did he have, like 19? He's batting second today for your New York Yankees. The Adam Wainwright thing is just absolutely crazy. Continue playing him. This just makes a lot of sense. San Diego just been just a disappointment this year. They have all sorts of talent and hitters, but they're constantly missing via injury or just being in slumps, etc. So I'm willing to roll the dice with Wainwright. We have 4 to go. We got about 15 minutes left. Plenty of time. Coming up after us, you get the college football DFS live before lock show. They'll also work in some betting. Who is they? Well, that is going to be Matt Gajewski and Ben Raza. Check that out here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. Phillies at Mets. 3.8 implied run total for the Phillies. 3.7 implied run total for the Mets. I initially thought that with those low run totals, this must be the back end of a doubleheader. It's not. There are no doubleheaders today. That one caught me off guard. Not so much for Nola, but how is Carlos Carrasco getting just a 3.8, 3.9 implied run total here from the Phillies? That just seems like just not a correct outcome.
Yeah, I was on the Phillies over yesterday as well. I don't think it hit. I think they had a similar yesterday. Yeah, they got to 4. So I don't know if they're just banking on a division game being tight scoring, but I would definitely be more of on the side of, or at least if I was an odds maker, I'd probably put the Phillies at 4.5 here. So maybe a little bit of value to be had there. Bryce Harper's having there's some real debates right now between Harper over Tatis over that NL MVP, right? Tatis has gone pretty quiet and Harper stayed hot. So I don't know, maybe he got something in him, and in these last 2 weeks he continues this incredible pace of play. You got to go up there and get him today at 6K. So he's going to cost you, but Yeah, he's been really, really good. Aaron Nola is also very good at baseball. 9,800 on DraftKings. I'm looking for the north side of 30% cumulative K rate to both sides of the plate. On the road, that K rate's dipped a little bit, 4 or 5%. It is a division rival. They got a lot of tape on them, but I like Nola's chances of being a top pitcher on our algorithm. We got him with a 26% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. That's second to just Corbin Burns with a 33% ownership. So, you like those numbers to be a little closer, but I'm fine with getting to a 30 to 40% ownership of Nola in my personal lineups. And it's just a good pitcher. Looking at his numbers against the Mets this season, he's got 3 starts against them, averaging just under 20 DKP a game. So, medium, modest results. Wouldn't be the end of the world. I'd like to get over 20. If I was going to pick on Carrasco, he has shown some problems with power against righties, a 2.29 home run per 9 to righties so far. A lot of that coming in Citi Field. So maybe a Real Muto who's been swinging a hot stick, McCutcheon, somebody like that could take advantage of that. But Harper, like I said, he can hit bombs off anybody. And Carrasco has a 42% hard contact rate going this season against lefties. That's building off his 41% plus last couple of years, and his home run per 9 is kind of overperforming to that. So you might see some regression coming his way with that 20% K rate. So I'm in on some Phillies here. Maybe I'd be more of like a 3-man Philly stack than not. I'm not really there on the Mets. What would put me on a couple of Mets stacks in the back end of my lineup would be if Nola gets top 2% ownership. Right now at 33%. If that goes up, we start touching 40%. I always just have 3 or 4 full Met stacks in case all hell broke loose in 150, but not something I would do in 50 or less or 20 or less.
Does your model do strikeout projections for pitchers?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at Carlos Carrasco. I'm going to drop this link into chat. So he's sitting on right now. You can get 5.5 strikeouts is his projected over under. We're saying 74% of the time he's going to go under that. Expected ROI is let's see, depending on where it's juiced. Right now, looks like the best site you're paying -134. So that's going to give you a projected ROI of 30. All that's figured out for you, calculated for you on the Awesemo odds. At OddsShopper, or if you look at the Awesemo odds tool, I just dropped that link in there. It'll tell you what the best bets are, and then you can go shop the lines with OddsShopper. What do you think here about what is your projection coming in under? I would say 4.3, but I'm just eyeballing it.
So I think one of the things with Carrasco, you got remembers the last 2 games he did get over 90 pitches, and before that they were really working on stretching him out. So if I give him 90 pitches in my model against his projected lineup, it comes back 6.9.
Interesting. Okay, so perhaps the over is the way to go.
Yeah, he has had a little bit of walk problems lately though.
I'd still rather. That's one of those where I want to take the under, and it's hard for as humans, we want to root for good things to happen. And taking the under on anything is hard, but there are just so many things that can go wrong that could get him chased out of the game early enough that I still think the under seems a little bit more appropriate for me. And a lot of times I have a hard time looking at unders on strikeout props, but that one just seems off to me, internalized. That's why I was asking Gun Doctor, because I know he runs the numbers on these to see where his were coming out as well. All right, back to the games we have here. The pitching options just keep on coming. We had Nola in the last game. We've already talked about McCullers and Wainwright and Lance Lynn. You got Kikuchi as a wild card there. You got Corbin Burns, top 2 in every pitching category this season, from ERA to WHIP to strikeouts per 9. He is going against the Cubs, who have a 2.7 implied run total. Is that even possible? How much Corbin Burns is too much Corbin Burns?
Yeah, I'm the lock button never looks so good because he is going to come in at egregious ownerships, 56%, but it is that good of a spot. We have him as a 44% chance essentially of being a top 2 pitcher in the National League Cy Young debate. All right, it's Max Scherzer and maybe Corbin Burns. And Corbin Burns, you're not going to get a team like the Cubs very often to maybe put a feather in your cap as one of your closing statements here. So I do like Corbin Burns to come out here and decimate this Cubs lineup. Brewers, much like the White Sox, one of those teams I am being cautious with their starting pitchers, but this is such a good spot that I don't think they're gonna, hold Burns back if they can help it. He got to 115 pitches in that last outing. That may have been a product of him throwing a no-hitter, and they ultimately pulled him the previous couple games, 90, 86 pitches. So that is something I'm watching. Will they let Burns go deep? And do they compensate for him going deeper than they wanted last start by going a little softer here? So there are some moving variables that logistically could rear its ugly head. But if we just specifically look at matchup, Corbin Burns against the Chicago Cubs, this is what you get up to play DFS for, right? He should go bananas. I'm sure he's going to have one of the higher strikeout props on the entire day. I wouldn't be surprised if it's at 7.5, even 8.5. Higher, Jesus.
9.5 right now.
I never bet that high, but yeah,
that's for the under. 8.5 is for the over on that. And this is collecting a bunch of different lines, but that's why we have the Awesemo odd shopper, so you can check these out at different places. Now you're paying a lot of juice on that under at 9.5, and it actually, even though he's expected to beat that almost 60% of the time, the ROI on it is minus 16 because it's juice so heavy on the under. So pay attention, understand how the math works. And if you don't understand how the math works, we're doing the math here for you. The main column to look at is what is your expected ROI? That's return on investment. So if it's negative, it means if you're going to lose, you're paying in just over time, you're going to keep losing. If it's positive, then that means the amount of return on your investment you should get each time you make the bet. So I know we don't like math, but oh goodness, math is kind of everything here in DFS and of course sports wagering. So check that out. Of course, we have our Slack chat has been immeasurable in the amount of help it has provided me as I'm learning how to do sports betting here since it's been illegal for just not quite a year in Virginia. So been a lot of fun. A lot of people we can talk to that are excellent at this. Gundacker knows his stuff. Aton knows his stuff. Of course, Eric Lindquist and Greg Ehrenberg and Ben Raza, Matt Kajeski, those guys are all phenomenal, and they're happy to help everybody understand how to learn, how to hedge, all these weird things. You're like, oh, well, let's, the terms that have been corrupted by daily fantasy sports erroneously. Now you need to know what it actually means when you're doing it, because it's a big difference in wagering. Oh, I'm going to hedge it by do this. I want my exposure over here. That's a whole lot of hooey. And you want to talk to people who know what they're doing. And these guys wager hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. All right, back to our last two games here. Kind of the last of the pitchers here. 37-year-old Charlie Morton, top 25 in most categories. Who would have seen that coming? It's going to be a low 60 degrees here for a 6 o'clock start in San Francisco. You have Alex Wood on the other side. Somehow Wood is 10-4, and I swear he's only pitched 6 games this year. It feels like I didn't go look at his game log. Did he get hurt? Did he miss part of the season, or has somehow he just been off my radar? Because I was surprised he had that many decisions. He's coming back from the IL today. Actually, he's been out since August 26th. Right now he's coming back from some Rona. But I don't know. I don't know. I also kind of share your sentiment there. It doesn't feel like I've been doing a lot of Alex Wood discussing. Now I'm digging into this. Okay, he missed the first 2 weeks of the season. His first outing was on April 18th. 3 starts in April, 5 starts in May, 5 starts in June, 5 starts in August. 5 stars. Wow. I don't feel like we've talked about him this year.
Maybe they're just catching not main slates. I don't know. I definitely feel like I haven't had his name float in front of my eyes.
Yeah, and it's not like he's not been good, but he's not been bad either. 4.1 ERA, 1.2 WHIP. All that's pretty good in today's day and age. It just, when I was looking at him up this morning, I was like, I don't remember talking or writing about him for or against him. And how the hell has he made so many starts for this to be a thing? 23 starts on the year. So he's missed a tiny bit of time, but not an inordinate amount. In any event, back here, we've got Atlanta. You got Charlie Morton here paying it a lofty salary for Morton at 9,700. But on the 2-game late slate, he is by far the best pitching option on there. And you also have Alex Wood in the Remember Me game. What do you want to do here with Atlanta and San Francisco? And what happened to Jock? You're not going to be sniffing any Jock tonight, I don't think.
Eddie Rosario.
He doesn't make the lineup anymore. Soler and Rosario. It's like, nah, sorry, John Peterson. It was a hell of a 3-week run with you, but we don't need you anymore.
Government came and took his babies. Alex, I mean, what a fun game that was yesterday, by the way. Kevin Gossman, what a walk-off sac fly, I believe it was. And it just fun baseball. I'm going to declare EMAC if the Yankees for some reason don't make the playoffs. Giants are my Cinderella team. Let's go. Alex Wood, 8,200. Just a tough matchup. Braves do actually profile pretty well against left-handed pitchers. Ozzie Albies is a problem. Jorge Soler, and then a couple guys like Austin Riley, Adam Duvall, Travis d'Arnaud, all hit for extremely high isolated power rates against lefties. So tough spot to navigate for Alex Wood. But to his credit, he has got that ground ball rate over 51% cumulatively to both sides of the plate. So more likely to hit one into the ground than you are into the air. I think I'm going to have to pepper both sides here. I think I'll get to a little bit of Wood, a little bit of Braves, but Wood being out for a couple of weeks has me a little bit worried, but maybe they look for him to go a little bit longer after yesterday's a game. Charlie Morton also in a spot where like his numbers are nice, but the Giants have been a tough team to get by on. So again, I think I just walk the line and get, healthy, less than 20% exposure to both of these guys. At the same time, neither stack looks like it should drop 10 plus. So just kind of a game that exists, and I'm hoping for the modest returns, but I would allow some modest returns on Morton or Wood on the grand scheme of this slate. But they are a couple ways to get a little bit different from the chalk build of Burns, Nolan, Lynn, something like that. If you're just trying to get a little bit different in the bottom end of your pitching pool to diversify a little bit.
Do you know which team in the league is second with 227 home runs behind only the Toronto Blue Jays?
I'm pretty sure it's the Giants, right?
That would be the Giants.
Yeah.
That is just unreal. The Giants also have scored the 6th most runs on the season. Also something we don't expect. Quick, let's name all the Giant All-Stars. Okay, I guess we really can't.
They got
Brandon Belt.
Right?
Yeah, Brandon Belt, when healthy, been hitting out of his mind. Of course, they have Evan Longoria, who was hurt for most of the season. He's back. You have Brandon Crawford, who was installed as their cleanup hitter for almost 5 weeks. He's now finally relegated to 6th. Mike Yastrzemski, a little bit dinged up, dealing with a variety of hamstring and other soft tissue injuries. He was their cleanup hitter for a while. He's now batting 8th. You've got they added Chris Bryant. You've got Buster Posey, rolling it all the way back to his 2012 or 14 when he won the MVP. He's playing like that. Well, at least a reasonable facsimile of that 10 years later. This is a tough offense. And the other thing is that San Francisco is not as big of a hitter's park as it was since they reconfigured their bullpens, moving them to the outfield. They got rid of whatever they called that alleyway. They brought in the fences about 8 to 10 feet, which doesn't seem like a lot. But the other big thing they did is they built a concourse out there, one of those places where people, have the standing tables with the umbrellas and the beers and all the fun stuff there. It's totally changed the way the ball flies within the stadium, which they already, because it's always windy there in San Francisco, and it's literally next to the bay. They did a good job with designing the stadium so the wind doesn't necessarily impact things inside the stadium. But now that it's tweaked it enough that it's become more of a hitter's park. Not quite as pronounced as it was last year, but definitely much better than it was prior to that. So I just wanted to throw that out. Final game that we have here, you've got Dalton Jeffries, rookie, who is going to be drawing the start for the A's. I would expect Jeffries to have about a soft innings limit of about 3. He'll probably go 50, 60 pitches. On the other side, you have Jose Suarez. Jose Suarez I'm going to go look at his over-under for strikeout prop, but I'm going to set it at 3.5, 4. I'm going to say 3.5. You're going to go over or under on Jose Suarez?
As far as what the line is, or would I bet over?
What do you think his line would be?
I'd probably say 4.5.
No, he's not even listed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'm taking the under. What do you want to do with this game? Because 2-game late slate, no slates off. It's our hammer. What do we got?
So the game doesn't feel like it just feels like a game that exists. Both teams have modest totals, 4.8 for the Athletics, 4.3 for the Angels. One thing, I threw it in the Slack. Like, I think there's an error in our Angels ownership. And I'm assuming that has to be an error. And if we pop the balloon with that ownership has to spray towards somewhere else. I'm curious to see where that ownership would land. But yeah, it doesn't feel like a must get to spot for either side. I'd be more inclined to get to the Athletics against a lefty. Josh Harrison, Starling Marte, Matt Chapman, and then Olsen can hit homers from either side of the plate. I don't mind that. But yeah, this is one of those games that I feel like just exists, and I'm not going to be here to a heavy extent. Dalton Jeffries pitching for the Athletics. I'm assuming that this isn't somebody that we're banking on going deep. I got 54 pitches his last two outings. So even if he got to 60-65, probably gives you a glass ceiling in terms of potential innings, and you might not even be guaranteed to get to that fifth inning and catch yourself a potential win. And he hasn't shown a bunch of strikeout potential anyway. Usually you can play a lot of average pitchers against the Angels and rack up strikeouts, but he's got just a 13.8% K rate so far this season, 8.2% swing and strike rate. Yeah, it's only 15 innings. Maybe there's more to him than we know, but the advanced metrics that I had to work off don't suggest that he's anything special in terms of missing bats.
Yeah, the other key thing about the A's bullpen is both their lefties have seen action in the last 2 days, so we'll probably see right-handed relievers. That bodes well for Jared Walsh, who's an underrated power hitter at this point. You also have rookie Brandon Marsh. He did lead off last night. I suspect he's going to be leading off again tonight. He doesn't have a lot of home run power, but he has two things in his favor: gap power, and two, he makes Jason Worth look civilized.
Yeah, he looks like
I need a Jason Worth / Brandon Marsh player in my life.
I think I made that tweet not too long ago. I'm not sure that he's not Jason Worth, but yeah, he looks like he lives in a van down by the river.
By choice.
Yeah.
He's not forced to be down there. That's just where he is. And then the other guy is Jack Mayfield. He's near the minimum on every DFS site, so that'll help round things out for you tonight. So let's see. Again, free content that we have today is Gundacker is going to get ready to give you his top home runs for the main slate. Free content, we have the MLB main slate ownership, the NFL Week 1 main slate ownership, and the MMA Top Fighters tool. We, of course, have 7 more shows after us, plus a video on demand coming out. You've got more content than you know what to do with. We're going to get off air in about 2 minutes after Gundacker gives his home run picks, because we have the college football DFS live before lock show next with Matt Gajewski and Ben Raza. What do you got here for the home runs, Gun?
So looking at the main slate, Ohtani's number 1, shocker. Some names that get a little bit more surprising. Andrew McCutchen. Was that the main slate? Yeah. And then I got Salvador Perez. So 2 of the top 5 home run hitters in all of baseball.
Sounds like a bit of a stretch. Now, I would say that. However, usually the bomb detector has names we're not expected to see there, and it finds success a fair amount of the time too. So
Tyler O'Neill is probably the most appealing. And he's been batting top 3 in that lineup lately.
All right. Reminder, we were sponsored today by Jock Market. They have turned daily fantasy sports into a stock exchange. It is a lot of fun. When you sign up there, use the promo code Awesemo. They will match you dollar for dollar up to your first 50 in a deposit bonus. That is a steal and a half. With that, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Gundacker on social media at Gundacker. I am at EMACDFS. And of course, it is Awesemo _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.